All right, welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. We are talking today about the Washington Capitals, a little bit their offseason, who they've lost, and what I think is going to happen this up and coming year. So let me know what your thoughts are. Hit like, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm going through all 32 teams. I've already done Winnipeg. We are going reverse, baby, while every other channel is going A to Z. Not me, baby. We ain't going with Anaheim. We ain't going with Arizona. We ain't starting with none of them. We are starting with giving the Jets some love, the Capitals some love, because they are always last. Look at any other hockey channel. So we're going to start with the Capitals today, so let's just jump right into it. So again, we're doing the Capitals today. You can see they're actually in a pretty good spot cap space wise. So in the offseason, if you were unaware, you're allowed to be about 10% over the cap temporarily, but when you start the season, you have to be within the cap structure, right? Or within the cap. So they are projected cap space. They are zero, but they technically have the negative 700,000. I wonder what they're going to do there, or why that is like that. But we're going to go over today and go over the lines, and they'll probably have to make just some small moves to be able to make that work. So let's jump right into it. I want to go through some of the trades that they did and who they lost, who they sent away. So they did send away Dmitry Orlov at the trade deadline, Garnett Hathaway as well, picking up Craig Smith, and also picking up a first-round pick, which was nice. This one ended up getting traded. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They also traded Marcus Johansson as well, Eric Gustafson, who they did trade to the Leafs. With that first-round pick, again, we just saw that the one they got from Boston got traded to the Leafs. They picked up Rasmus Sandin, which I think was a great pickup, a nice young player, because I don't know if you know this, the Capitals are old. They are one of the older teams, and that's kind of one of the issues with, in my opinion, with some of the things that's going on with the way they're structuring the team, and they're kind of just keeping the same group around, kind of like similar we saw with the Penguins before the Karlsson trade. So I'm really hoping there's some sort of not Karlsson-esque trade, but something bigger to kind of shake out this Washington lineup. I don't think there's going to be, because the way that people that they signed, but we will see. Let's talk more about it, okay? They also shipped off Lars Eller for a second-round pick, as well as, okay, they traded some seventh-round picks, not a big deal there. But the one big pickup that they did pick up besides Rasmus Sandin is Joel Edmondson. So this is we all heard about him being a trade market. I mean, last year, honestly, the Canadians were looking to move him. And it was 50% retained, so that's a good pickup for the Washington Capitals. Only having to send in a third-round pick and a seventh, so I think that, in my opinion, the Washington Capitals shouldn't be using their first-round draft picks. They shouldn't be picking with them. They should be sending them off and getting players with term, so they can be good for longer while Ovi is still able to play, as well as Nicholas Backstrom, as much as if he can avoid injury. And now they've also signed Tom Wilson. So we want to make sure that this team could stay together, their core together, and build around it and bring it up. So let's go over some. Again, we're going to go over a couple of things that you could see some of the people that they did lose. It was a lot of smaller people. You could see Connor Brown became an unrestricted free agent. They also picked up Max Pacioretty, which I thought was a pretty good pickup, to a 1-year contract. He was injured all last year, but we know that when he can play, he really can play. So extended Martin Fehervary. Signed Andrew Cristal. There's one other I did see earlier. Anyways, those are the big ones. Again, we talked about the Tom Wilson as well. So a couple of different things that they did. Again, not a huge shakeup. A lot of the core is still there. A couple of depth moves. I did like the Sandin move, and we'll go over that a little bit more later. So let's just go over the roster. And so the reason I want to go over this part right here is, to me, I think that this up-and-coming season is going to be another crucial one. We know that they missed the playoffs last year, and so they were like, okay, we need to retool on the fly. In my opinion, who did it best is St. Louis did a great job, and the Winnipeg Jets did a phenomenal job as well. And I think that's what the Capitals need to do as well. They need to do this big retool and move some bigger guys away, and pick up some key players that are going to be the movers and shakers. So, of course, you're not going to be moving Backstrom. You're not going to be moving Ovi. We all know that Kuznetsov has wanted a trade. He put in a trade request. He wants to be moved, but moving at 7.8 is going to be really tough. And it's not only for 1 more year; it's for 2 more years, right? And I imagine at this place in their where they're at, they don't want to just retain salary on that. They probably, honestly, it's going to be a first plus just to get rid of that if getting a contract. And then what? You don't have a first round pick for the trade deadline. So even though he requested that trade, I think that Oh, he's got a no movement clause too. Look at that. So I mean, and it's a 10 team. Let's see. Nope. This year becomes a 10 team no trade list. So it's only 10 teams that he won't be going to. Probably the 3 California teams as well as the 7 Canadian teams. That's typically what we see with a 10 team no trade list. So, um, I always liked Oshie. I thought it was great, but again, older, 36 years old, right? And by the way, I'm 33 in like 2 weeks, so like, I know about being old. Mantha has struggled for sure, but it isn't the last year of his contract. So if they, I don't know if they decide to extend him or move him, he's 28, so technically should be in his prime, but definitely has struggled on this contract coming up from the wings. Again, Tom Wilson getting extended a huge 7 by $6.5 million. I disagree with that. I think the 6.5 is probably right. I don't agree with the 7 million, but I think or 7 years, because I think that with him, long term is just not going to. In 7 years, Ovi's not going to be here. In 7 years, Ovi's going to be 44. I mean, honestly, I hope he's there, but I just don't see it happening. And like I said, if Alex Ovechkin can keep it going, I would totally be good with that. And give some of the smaller guys. I liked Sonny Milano sign. Dylan Strom's fine too. I think he's a little expensive for 5 million, but again, I'm not a Capitals fan. I'm just going through them. I'm starting to learn more about everyone, and I'm excited to start learning about them. So, John Carlson, of course, he has an injury. Has had injuries. Actually, let's see how he played last year. I'm pretty curious because he's a player that I watched, but $8 million is a lot of money. So 29 points in 40 games. So injured, of course. But when he does play, he's very good. So I'm okay with this if he can perform. But I think that he's a bit expensive for $8 million is hard. Again, these are people that there's a certain core they need to perform. If you want to keep him, you got to perform. So that includes Carlson he can be a phenomenal defenseman. He was great when they won the cup back in 2020, I think it was. So Nick Jensen, again, a good trade. Some of these players, there are some good players here. Again, older, but they need to perform. And I think, again, the Rasmus Sandin pick is a great pickup. He's going to be young, and he's going to get a good contract. And in my opinion, being that he's an RFA, I think they should bridge him. Probably 3-4 years and just keep him, because you don't know. Honestly, at that point, you're not going to go what's going to happen with the team, because 3-4 years, that'll be Ovi's window. And you can figure out if he wants to stay or not. And if he doesn't want to stay, or Sandy's like, hey, I don't want to be on a crappy team while you guys are rebuilding because Ovi's gone, you could flip him for picks and everything. So, again, Joel Edmondson, good player. That's very respectful contract right there. I think that was a good pickup. Martin Ferravari, he was okay. I think that was a little expensive for who he is. But again, he's young, so that's why I think it's probably better to keep him here long term through this retool, you call it? I would call it a retool. Anyways, and the Kemper we signed after being there with the Colorado Avalanche. Charlie Lindgren used to play with the St. Louis Blues or the New York Rangers. I can't remember, but let's go through again. Tom Wilson. This is the real reason I want to go through his contract. Is it was 22 points in 33 games, injured of course, but he's never been a really high scoring. Look at 52 points, 78 games. That was his highest. Never been a real. I mean, the game that he plays is tough. He has a lot of ability to get injured. Look, he hasn't played a full season since 16-17. So, oh my God. So I don't know why they would sign him to that. To me, I think it was too expensive for too long. But we'll see. The cap is supposed to be going up, so I could be wrong in that case. So here, again, we got Martin Fedovari going through his points, 16 and 67. That's not bad for who he is. Again, minus 11 for plus minus, which isn't the greatest stat, but it is slightly representative when you're not looking at. If you just want to look at base stats, it only counts your even strength, goals scored on, and goals scored while you're on the ice. So he had 11 more goals scored when he was on the ice than when he. So more goals were scored than his line scored while he was on the ice. Again, Rasmus Sandin, great pickup in my opinion. Eric Gustafsson, there was a guy they weren't going to keep. At least wanted to shore it up, and the first round pick makes sense for a guy who was drafted in the first round as well. Similar position too. And we'll go through Anthony Mantha. So this is one of the guys I want to highlight. So in my opinion, I don't know if you re-sign Anthony Mantha. If you do, you do it you cut the cost. So if you go down to him, he is Anthony Mantha, 5.7. So in my opinion, he's gonna want to make more. He's a UFA. I think if he can, he's got to perform. And it's a contract year, so I hope he does. And so if he doesn't perform, 27 points in 67 games, he needs to put up some numbers. So I really hope he does. Because you can see when he was with the Detroit Red Wings, 24 points and 24 goals, 25 goals, right? You're getting 11 goals out of a guy that's way more expensive. So I think there's a great player there, but he needs to perform. He needs to up his numbers and show he's worth getting a new contract, and whether he wants to be there or not. So, and of course, you have the GOAT, Alex Ovechkin. I pulled up his numbers. You guys know who he is, and he's great. Point per game, practically a point per game. Look at, can you believe this? In 21-22, he's got to be 36 at this point, 90 points, 50 goals. Last year, 42 goals, 75 points, point per game player at his age. I love it. I hope he keeps doing it. I think he's going to be the all-time goal scorer. Give it a couple years, and that's really what they're chasing right now, and that's the problem with the Washington Capitals. They're not chasing playoffs. They're chasing a goal record. I'm trying to beat Gretzky's goal record, and so it's something you as ownership you have to do. But I don't love that you have to do it. I respect it. I understand why, but I just wish they went a little harder at it. Right? I wish they would just give him a little more support. I mean, they're giving him his top line support, right, with Tom Wilson, and so I don't know. I just disagree with that. So, and then Nick Backstrom hasn't played a full season since 16-17, which was a great year for him. Look at that, at 86 points. That's awesome. By the way, I was incorrect when they won the cup. It wasn't 2020. That was that was the Lightning. It was 17-18. My bad. Again, looking at almost a point per game player, 74 and 80, 54 and 61, 53 and 55. I mean, like, it kind of went down. I mean, kind of went down in the last couple of years, but we know that he's capable. Look at this. 1,032 points in 1,097 games. Almost point per game player in his whole career. So we know he can do it. And so I want to jump over to the lines real quick. Let's just jump over to the forward group and just kind of break it down. And you can kind of get my opinion at this point. I'm not super excited about what the Washington Capitals are doing. I'm not very impressed because I don't think they did enough. I think they could have done more, right? So you're keeping this top line. Keep the top line, Alex Ovechkin, of course, right? But your biggest change is Max Pacioretty here, who can be a mover and shaker. He did have an Achilles injury last year that kept him out most of the season. But I think if he can perform, which you know he can, he's a point per game player, or an easy 60 point player. I think that this would be a huge boost to the lineup if it can be, but I don't know. I'm not very hopeful, I'd say. But we have seen him play very well. I like this top six. I really like Oshie. I'm a big Oshie fan ever since the Olympics and everything. I like this third line too. I think it's pretty tough, in my opinion. It's a pretty tough third line. I'd like that. I think you can get some really good scoring off this third line. Fourth line is kind of thrown together. Nicholas Aube-Kubel was picked up on waivers. Nick Dow is fine. I don't know who this guy is, so it shows how much I know about the about the Capitals. But we're learning here, okay? Here's Martin Ferravari. Oh, so they're going to have him playing top line with John Carlson. So I imagine he's going to be learning a lot from him. Probably has a little bit more of a defensive mind to him. Playing with John Carlson is not bad on the first line. So I guess that deal at 2.6 whatever, it was pretty good then for 3 years. So I apologize. I didn't know the guy, so I'm glad that there's someone that is going to be playing with John Carlson and everything. So Rasmus Sandin, I'm very happy for that, very excited for that pickup. Nick Jensen, I really like. Again, played for the Red Wings, so I'm just a fan of. Joel Edmondson is going to be your bottom pair guy at 1.7. That's a great pickup. And Trevor Van Riemsdyk is a good one as well. Not crazy about the bottom pair. I'm excited about the Rasmus being on the second line. Of course, John Carlson. I don't mind the bottom four or the top four. It's okay. Again, I think these are just you didn't make the playoffs last year. You didn't make a lot of crazy changes. I mean, look, and of course your goalies are the same, right? So your goalies are still going down here, Kemper and Lindgren. So again, I'm not very impressed. And the reason I'm not impressed is, again, not a lot of changes. Rasmus Sandin looked great for the first right when he got there. but then he dropped off really quickly. And so I hope he can boost that back up. And the reason I'm not impressed is because look who they're in the Metropolitan Division. They're versing the Carolina Hurricanes, a legitimate top Stanley Cup contender, went to the semifinals, lost to Florida, shouldn't have lost in 4. Carolina's a dog. They are tough. Blue Jackets definitely got better. They're going to steal some games this year, but they're not going to get the playoffs. Devils, phenomenal. Going to be good for the next 10 years with the way that they've drafted. Phenomenally. Islanders, I don't think they'll make it. Rangers definitely going to make it. So I'm probably going to re-sign Kane again later in the season. Flyers will not make it. So you have, in my opinion, Jackets, Islanders, and Flyers will not make the playoffs. So in the Metro, you have Canes, Devils, Rangers, Penguins, who made a massive trade with Carlson, and they have the Capitals. So in my opinion, the Capitals out of those 5 are the weakest. I mean, maybe the Rangers, but in my opinion, I think the Capitals are older. They're not good enough. And you have, mind you, if you look at the Atlantic Division, you have like 7 teams that are 7 of the 8 teams are going to be taking games away from top teams. Okay, they're going to be moving guys out. They're going to be moving teams out. And in my opinion, there's 8 teams in the Atlantic that could make a huge push for the playoffs. I mean, Red Wings have a potentially not. And I'm a Red Wings fan, so I really wish they would. I don't think Ottawa is going to make it either. But I think you got Buffalo is going to make a huge push. You have Boston could drop, Florida could drop, Tampa could drop, Toronto I think is going to be pretty good. But think about that. You have Toronto, Tampa, Florida, Boston, who all made the playoffs last year. Buffalo has an opportunity who are very good and they're on the upswing. Missed the playoffs by 1 point. Red Wings are going to be taking games. They did a ton of moves, pick up DeBrincat. Ottawa is going to get Norris and back, and they got Chikrin for the full year. So they have a lot of. I mean, there's a lot going to be happening. I'm not a believer in the Capitals. If you are, please comment something because I just don't believe. I don't believe the Capitals are going to be in the playoffs. But if you are a fan and you watch them on a regular basis, try and convince me. I'd love to be convinced. I just don't see it. So let me know what your thoughts are. Hit like, subscribe, and love you.